Welcome to Old Grump's Garage. This episode of Old Grump's Garage is brought to you by the power of coffee. Coffee taming the wildest shrew. Coffee, helping grumpy folks people. Coffee, it's what drives you. One of the first things we usually address after picking up a used automobile is a tune-up on the ignition system. I bought some vehicles that were 7 or 8 years old, and when I pulled the spark plug, realized that it still had the factory spark plugs in it. And some of those, the electrode was burnt off flush down to the ceramic. It was the one the vehicle was driving, but usually in those cases it's because they were powered with HEI, high energy ignition. General Motors introduced high energy ignition in 1975. At the point I was driving in 1979, 1980, when I got my first automobile, of course I was driving something that was about 5 years old and it had points distributor in it. I learned early on that you really had to stay on top of points, because if they begin to get some corrosion in the contacts, all of a sudden your vehicle would be missing, driving real bad, performance would be off, fuel mileage would be off. And usually when I found that out is out when I was street racing somebody and hadn't checked the gap on the points or the condition of the points. So you'll see in a lot of vehicles like this one, because it's an 86, it's already got HEI, but you'll also come across when you buy like 1970, 1975, 1974 vehicles, even back into 67s, anything with a V8 in it. If somebody that's been maintaining it has really worked on it, they've probably converted it over to HEI. And that's because they're just so consistent. You'll see a lot of videos from a lot of channels where people are rescuing old vehicles and they'll say, this vehicle set for 15 years, will it run and drive? If it's got an HEI in it, the chances are you put a new battery on it and trickle a little gas down the carburetor from a squeeze bottle, and chances are that thing's going to start up, because the HEI is just that dependable. The other great point about HEI is in the name. It makes a lot of energy. And because it does, you can run a wider gap on your spark plug, pull more performance, and of course get better gas mileage as well. This vehicle is equipped with HEI. We're going to go through it, check the spark plugs. Going to go ahead, I've already bought spark plug wires, a new cap, new coil, and a new module for the HEI. We'll get into what I use and why as we begin to tear it down. A word of preliminary caution. Whenever you're working on the ignition system, you're going to have the distributor cap off, replacing parts or whatever. Bear in mind you've got the breather off, and that leaves the carburetor internals exposed. It's real easy when you're dealing with these really small screws and modules and things to drop something really small down that carburetor. And the last thing you need is a small metal screw going down an intake runner and hanging a valve open and causing you a bunch of damage in your engine. My recommendation is that you block that off with something. Now, in most cases, and oh, there it is. In most cases, if you have a 4-barrel or something, you can use a carburetor cap that are pretty generic, like this. This one's going to be a little bit big since this vehicle's got a 2-barrel on it, but it just slides down over the top of the carburetor since you got the breather off and keeps you from dropping things in there. That little cap's probably about $5 or $6 at anywhere that you buy good performance parts like Jegs or Speedway Motors or whatever vendor you use for reliable parts. But it will save you a world of grief not dropping down small screws, nuts, seat clips, what have you, in your carburetor. Just a word to the wise from somebody who's had some really near fatal experiences. You don't want to be down in that carburetor with a pair of vice grips or needle nose or a magnet trying to catch something to keep it from getting in the engine. Okay guys, so there's the first spark plug we've pulled out. If you'll notice, it's got some oil down here on the threads where the valve covers were leaking. The ceramic itself has a nice beige color, so appears the carburetor's probably jetted right. And the electrode's not burnt off, but we're going to go ahead and replace these plugs anyhow. This is a service I provide. All right, so let's discuss distributor caps and your options. This is a factory Delco Remy HEI distributor cap. You'll notice these lugs inside, and if I pull one of these spark plug wires off, they're aluminum. They work good. You'll get a good bit of mileage out of them. But I prefer these. These are brass. You'll see that lug all the way through. They're a better conductor of electricity, and they don't oxidize as bad as the aluminum. I, for years, raced short track in mini stock and street stock, Chevelles, Monzas, V8s, 4-cylinders. And as a habit, I got to using Performance Distributors products. It's a company out of Memphis, Tennessee. So this is one of their caps with the new high energy Davis Unified coil in it, which is a little bit higher performance coil than what you get from the factory. I believe if you go to their site, Davis talks about you could run that up to like 9,000 RPMs without having miss. This cap looks pretty good. It's clean. I don't see any pitting in it. I imagine that it's been changed. There are a few spots here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see them on camera. There's a little bit of oxidation starting on the inside terminals. So I'm kind of glad we're going ahead and changing out caps. While we're at it, I'm going to replace the rotor button and the module in the distributor, and then we'll be ready to go back together. Hey y'all, if you've made it this far, how about do me a favor and go ahead and click the like button and go ahead and subscribe there too. That way when you're on YouTube, if we posted a new video, it'll pop up in your feed and you can see it there and see if whatever the topic is we're working on this week is something of your interest. It helps us a whole lot to keep the channel going, and we greatly appreciate your support. We now return you to your regularly scheduled program. All right, there's your rotor button. You can see it's got a little bit of a shiny spot there, but nothing burnt. You can hold on to that. It might save you at some point with some other vehicle. Here's where we were talking about them little bitty screws that you don't want to drop down the carburetor. Let's just be like that. You got one wire here. The module doesn't want to disconnect. You have to be real careful. Don't want to damage the wiring. There we go. Get you back in your connector like you belong. Get back in there. It's your home. Are you too good for your home? Back in your home. That wasn't good. All right. So there's your new module. You will get a little package of grease with it. You're going to take this grease and apply it to the bottom side of the module. And as the instructions say, apply a liberal coat. So I have liberally applied that coat. Now I will proceed to get it all over my hands while putting the module back in. literally. And then everything falls off the front of the truck. All right, new modules installed. Then we do the rotor button. Here we go, dropping stuff. And I can see a little plastic rotor. Let's see if I can reach it. He drops the screwdriver. And I set it down, it falls off. Alrighty. So, modules installed, new rotor buttons installed. Now we're ready to install the Chevrolet cap. Sit down where you belong. Wouldn't be pain. Okay, new cap, new coil, new module, new rotor button, new spark plug wires, and new spark plugs. Because I'm using the DUI system, the book for this truck from the factory called for a 035 gap on the plugs. With the DUI, we run 045 gap on the plugs. I really like their wires. As you can see, they've got a really good heat insulate on them. You still want to make sure that they're not touching the exhaust manifolds. Tie them back, which I've done with some zip ties to try to keep them away from the exhaust manifolds. Let's give her cranking. See what we got. Alright folks, we completed the tune-up on the old 86. A couple things to note: when you order spark plug wires, you're going to be faced with a decision. Do you want over the top or under? If you've not dealt with the older vehicles, that may be kind of an odd question. So if you'll notice, you can't really see from this side, from that bracket there, the air conditioner. Let me take it around here and I'll show you on the other side. All right, if you'll notice, the manifold on the exhaust on this truck turns down and you can see the spark plugs. So the wires are coming over the top of the engine and down between each of the runners on the exhaust manifold. This is an 86. In the 70s, they had what a lot of folks call the ram horn exhaust manifolds, which look completely upside down. The manifold runs across the top of the cylinders, and then the runners go down. So for those vehicles, you would need the under wires, which are a bit longer. I ran into this with a 70 and was a little confused then before I understood the differences. And if you get the wrong set of wires for the ram horns, they'll only go over the top, and you end up with spark plug wires laying against the exhaust manifolds. So over the top for the 80s that have these type of exhaust manifolds, and under are the wires you want for the ones that have the ram horns like the 70s and 67s and all those have. Alrighty folks, that's tuning up an HEI. Please like the video if you've made it this far, and please subscribe to the channel. It really keeps the channel alive and helps us continue on with what we're doing and making more videos for you. Thanks.